Hello, dear viewers. Today we have another broadcast with Oleg Pritula. The previous one we did was about the Dodge Department in Ukraine, which we call Dodge Ukraine. And in general, the broadcast was quite successful, especially considering how narrow the topic is. I hope everyone will find it interesting today as well, because we will basically continue the topic of the chainsaw, like Javier Milei, cutting down the state, efficiency, and specifically today, pragmatism, how it works. I can't even bring myself to call Trump and his team politicians, but let's say the policies in the United States, the team that came with Trump, as businessmen, in other words, pragmatism above all else, as the main focus. Hello, Oleg.
Yes, greetings, Dennis. Greetings to all the viewers of your channel. And I would say that we haven't seen each other for 2 months, but so many events have happened. It's all flying by like a rocket. I have the impression that several years have already passed, really.
That's because Trump frequently signs executive orders, quickly delivering on his promises and moving everything at a rapid pace. How long has Trump been in office? Not even 3 weeks yet, just 2 days short. And already a lot has been done, I would say much more than Biden did in the previous 4 years.
Absolutely, I confirm what you're saying. I would say, if we look at it hypothetically, Trump is driving a sports car, but then Musk joined in and put him in a rocket, and they're just flying, flying with acceleration. People don't even realize what's happened, that things will happen so fast, and the leftists won't even have time to sneeze. Judging by how they react, there's so much information every day that they don't have time to process it. They're just suspended in space now, and you can see how confused they are. They're shouting, screaming, squealing, and only blaming two people for all the sins in the world, Elon Musk and Donald Trump. It seems they're out of chances.
Did you see what happened yesterday? I called it America's version of Putin's squads. Those women are wild. I'll air it now and show everyone.
No one voted for Elon Musk.
Not a single Democrat in America voted for Elon Musk. Not a single Republican in America voted for Elon Musk. Not a single independent in America voted for Elon Musk. Not a single libertarian in America voted for Elon Musk. Heck, not a single vegetarian in America voted for Elon Musk. And yet Elon Musk is seizing power that belongs to the American people. We're here to fight back.
They say Musk. Well, we didn't vote for Musk. Musk is destroying democracy. And now, they've started drawing parallels with Yermak, like Musk is Yermak, a Yermak type figure, but for Trump. Hold on, nobody ever introduced Yermak to us as part of Zelensky's team. The Constitution gives him no official powers, but in practice he's like Ukraine's vice president or even president. Trump announced Musk to us from the very beginning, and Musk himself announced that he supports Trump. The State Department was announced long before the elections, and it was immediately said that Musk would head it, and Musk doesn't hold any other official positions right now. It's logical they're close and communicate informally. It's not a big deal. Do you agree?
I absolutely confirm that, because right now, a lot of people, especially leftists, are always trying to suggest that there could be some kind of friction between Musk and Trump and so on. They won't get what they want because they don't understand that Trump and Musk actually complement each other. Trump has age and a lot of business experience. He's also the creator of an entire empire, while Musk moved faster in his life than Trump. And Trump really likes Elon Musk's speed because he likes his rocket.
Yes.
So it's absolute harmony. It's impossible to break it.
And I want to tell the viewers, and after all, our audience follows this quite closely, the leftists will keep trying to drive a wedge between Trump and Musk, and will keep spreading rumors that someone somewhere had a falling out. The new fake is that Musk wasn't given. At first they said the fake story that Musk wasn't given an office in the White House. Then they said he was, but on a different porch because someone made a fuss there. All of it is fake, all lies, absolute harmony. There might be some tensions, well, work-related probably, but that's actually a good thing because it means it's possible here. When a person changes their opinion, changes their views, complements each other, and reaches some kind of healthy compromise. That's what is called democracy. This is not the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, and it absolutely shouldn't be the Communist Party of the Soviet Union.
Absolutely. And notice that Trump keeps repeating in his White House, I'm supporting Musk, I know what he's doing. He keeps emphasizing that they are one team and no one will be able to separate them. And in reality now, both Elon and Trump are kind of pragmatists, because pragmatists base themselves on common sense, on real events, on facts, and they make decisions accordingly. And politicians, their only goal is to stay in power and plunder, meaning a politician is basically a parasite without exception. So it turns out that pragmatists have taken power in the world, meaning people who can actually create something and enrich others, and most importantly, prevent stealing. That's the difference between a politician and a pragmatist, and right now, I believe the pragmatists are in power.
Because a pragmatist and an entrepreneur too will approach everything by first calculating income and expenses. They won't be distracted by any slogans to boost their political ratings or to prolong their political careers. They came specifically to get things done. And at the forefront, of course, is the State Department, and the first hornet's nest that was uncovered was the United States Agency for International Development, that fund. What do you have to say about this? I know you also follow all of this closely.
Every day Elon Musk puts on a dodge here. There are so many abuses and such crazy embezzlement of money. This is embezzlement. This is corruption. It's not just someone managing things wrong or making a mistake. This is definitely corruption. And people will go to jail. I think if it's like it always was before, the politicians will just shuffle things around and only minor players will get jailed. I'm sure as of today, the process has been launched. Considering that yesterday the prosecutor was also appointed, the Attorney General of the United States, Pam, she was only appointed yesterday. She hasn't started acting yet. Therefore, we will now see step-by-step actions taken in specific situations where people will be held accountable for all of this. And finally, basically, our two main platforms right now are the X platform and Trump's Truth, because Trump doesn't immediately post information on the X platform. So I suggest people follow you on the X platform, because they get information at the speed of light and we communicate in a completely different way. It's not like the leftists who first need a day or two to come up with all sorts of narratives and propaganda and then release the information. That's why they can't keep up with the rocket that's flying with us right now, in my opinion. Because I consider both you and myself to be pragmatists. We always use common sense and, most importantly, morality. And we think like businessmen about how to solve the problem. That is, to find a solution. Not like a politician who causes a problem, pretends to fix it, and keeps it going so they can stay in power. No, the situation is changing now. And in my opinion, I already have the impression that in just 2 weeks, we've moved 10 years ahead of Europe. That's my impression.
Continuing on the United States Agency for International Development and the media, here it is, as you mentioned, including the former. It's important to tell people now that freedom of speech is the foundation of democracy. So how does it turn out like this? These fancy, what I call old media, legacy media, corporate ones, please. Politics was funded. $8 million.
$8 million.
National Aeronautics and Space Administration canceled their $8 million subscription, issued a public statement, and it was revealed they paid the New York Times and I believe the Associated Press. Here's what happens. People read those stories and our news sites usually just copy and translate them, often inaccurately. People get all kinds of nonsense in their heads, right? The latest example when it came to Ukrainian sources, when Trump let something slip because of an incorrect translation, a deliberately wrong interpretation, people came to me, unfortunately some of my audience too, and said, you said Trump would make peace, but he said, I'm giving weapons to continue the war in exchange for these minerals. But he never said that or anything like it. He said, we're discussing this, but people assume everything is already uncovered and ready to take and sell. It's a huge development process. It's a very expensive process. Even if we could, we don't have these technologies and there will be no exchange for weapons.
I want to confirm your words and explain the difference. If the deep states, including Zelensky and all this clique with their crowns on their heads, they wanted to plunder Ukraine together with BlackRock through the back doors. Their plan was to fully digitize everything, put everyone on digital, and turn Ukraine into a trading post for China. Now feel the difference. Trump officially declares, I will stop the bloodshed, I will stop the military actions, and we will do business. And he does it openly. So you and I can discuss, for example, some pros and cons and so on, but this is open information. That's the difference between leftists and normal pragmatic people.
And here, the key thing you said is that it's like in business, it's a deal, but it's not really a deal. Let's do it the way Britain is trying to do, in my opinion. Let's act in Britain's interests. Let Ukraine be the place where people are killed, where there's grief, where people leave, all in Britain's interests. Yes, I understand Britain. I think the citizens of Ukraine wouldn't care much if our interests were decided by, say, Syria or Jordan. We assume that's distant and irrelevant to us, just as Britain treats us. Trump has a different approach. That's what cooperation is. It's not giving up national money, it's cooperation. They have technology and money. We have these natural resources. It's a win-win. The situation is perfect. And we need to look for more situations like this, as many as possible. And a normal president is supposed to focus on exactly these kinds of things.
I would explain it in a simple way. If two neighbors and one of them's house burned down, the other says, listen, let me use your land. You'll make some money, we'll both earn, and you can rebuild your house. I can't pay you for this house, but I can help you start a business so you can solve your problem yourself. That's an honest approach, not just taking advantage and so on. I remember 2 months ago, we were saying it would be great if Elon Musk pulled the rug out from under BlackRock. And I think our words are starting to come true, and I believe that's absolutely right. Let me add something. Sorry if I interrupt.
No, go ahead, speak.
I would also add that we could draw a global pragmatic map of Trump's thinking. Here's America, above is Greenland, Canada, then below is Panama, then we move down to El Salvador, then Argentina, and then we move over to the European space. Thanks to Musk, changes are about to happen. This is Germany, England, and Hungary, Poland, which I would include because it's a long-time ally along with Duda. And of course, I would like Ukraine to join this alliance now with a sensible approach to move forward. And now let's move down. That is the Asian region where Gaza is. I'm sure you put the map up showing that the United States will be there. But Trump's latest tweets on Truth Social confirm it. And he even jokes that he'll take Schumer to those nice places they'll rebuild.
They will call it the Riviera of the Middle East.
The Riviera of the Middle East, and that's correct, and that's logical from their point of view. But you can't have a dog or some kind of wild animal living in the same area as normal people. They need to be separated. That's what borders are for, so that normal people can unite and live in one community. And if there are some cannibals, they shouldn't be allowed in here, that's for sure. And Elon supports this in Europe as well. He says, yes, let there be a wonderful Germany with its own philosophy and culture. Let there be France, let there be England. There's no need to mix this with Muslims and Islamization. That's just the nonsense of these leftists. But thank God, now all this will stop. And the world has already turned around 180 degrees. I think we're moving in the right direction and enjoying it.
Yes, 100%. And you just mentioned Israel. I wanted to talk about it later, but we can discuss it now. That's also a deal. We help you militarily. We invest huge amounts. It's a huge amount of money to restore and turn those areas of Gaza into something beautiful. Investments, inflow of investments, and you get security. And naturally, these are long-standing relationships, cooperation, collaboration in terms of military technologies, because a lot of military technologies are developed in Israel. Both sides win, and what's important is that both sides are civilized. No one is taking away someone else's property. It's not about joining forces to seize someone together. Basically, he's offering the same thing to Canada. Things will improve for you if you join our state. Whether you accept or refuse, we won't send tanks or soldiers. This is simply a business deal. You said the same about Salvador. He made a deal with Bukele. You have prisons and a system in place. You've defeated the world's toughest crime in one country, so accept illegal migrants, even those from other countries. And they have their own agreements about what will come of it.
And most importantly, Dennis, they will work there.
Work, yes.
Not just watch television and play tennis and just, spend your taxpayer money. They will work there producing goods that will help the country. So this is what a businessman does, because Nayib Bukele, he was originally a businessman, and again, he's a pragmatic person, meaning he set a clear goal, cleaned up the country, and now he's useful to America. As for Rubio, the second country he visited, he went to Nayib Bukele. It's simple. It's so right and so inspiring that it's like common sense is starting to move across this land and choose the very best, you could say, sprouts of life, sprouts of real living.
We can be proud that we were the first and only ones to inform our audience about Bukele and Milei long ago. This cooperation continues wherever common sense exists. People didn't get Salvador and questioned what was happening. Bukele has major sewing factories there, as seen in a video, and more. It's good for him and the country, with deals happening and infrastructure ready. It will be a share of the gross domestic product. Don't look for any hidden meanings, it's just profitable, logical, and these are deals, as Oleg says, it's pragmatism, just pragmatists.
Yes, to further confirm this alliance between Elon and Trump, I want to say that if you think about it logically, look, from a technological point of view, what is Trump doing? Now, you can put a lot into orbit, large masses, and he made satellites, made them, which provide Starlink internet. So there is already a network now, you can assume, and the network uses infrastructure with an infrared beam, not an infrared laser beam. It connects with each other now, that is with laser technology. And with such large rockets as Elon Musk Sr. has now, you can launch very large satellites that will have powerful lasers. And I think there will be something like, as they say, a dome. It will be Trump's Earth Dome, which with laser technology will be able to reach, for example, a nuclear warhead that is just trying to take off, that is moving somewhere. In this way, America might actually force the removal of nuclear weapons altogether because they will become pointless. It tells me technologically how Elon and Trump think and act and why they joined forces. Because Elon has the technology and Trump has the global vision, so this combination, I call Trump methane and Elon Musk is oxygen, like O2, like oxygen.
Like O2.
That's what's used in the Starship rocket, in that big rocket. And together, they're such a powerful force, and people still don't understand what has happened. We will move at a very high speed, and God willing, Ukraine will join this process and we will be together. Because everything that remains, it won't be a difference of 10 years anymore. It will be a difference of 100 years. It will just be some caves in space. That's my impression.
It's also important for people to understand why this happens. Trump has been in power for 2.5 weeks. The first official visitor was Netanyahu, and unofficially Milei has visited several times. This is clearly close cooperation. Giorgia Meloni, as you mentioned, Marco Rubio visited Bukele for an intense, widely covered meeting. We should have basically been there, and the war shouldn't have happened, and Ukraine should be there. Unfortunately, our people have defeatist attitudes and think nothing is possible. Well, take Salvador, a place run by the mafia where most people are gang members, yet things still worked out there. What kind of results is Argentina showing now? Well, everyone is managing to pull through somehow. I just want to tell people it seems impossible to you because these media, these grant-funded media, have put this idea into your heads so that you have no hope. They say you shouldn't go to the elections, that they're all bad, it's useless, it's impossible because we're Ukraine, we're doomed. But that's not how it is. That's exactly the work of these leftist structures, to make people feel doomed. That's it, zombies. Pay your taxes, exist, let us experiment on you, give us money. That's all you're needed for, not a happy life.
Of course, look, Rubio, here's more proof. This is literally the latest information. He's not going to the G20, to those countries, because he says there's no point in supporting these green and all sorts of crazy leftist ideas. He says, I don't have time because I have to deal with South Africa. There's a problem there. They're taking away property through expropriation. These savages are just taking people's property and killing people. And look at what he prioritizes, South Africa and the G20. This is already showing disregard for all these structures, considering the World Health Organization, the United Nations, and all these leftist organizations that basically sucked up all the American taxpayers' money. I mean, all of them were funded by taxpayers' money. It was just mockery, like America was a cash cow. And by the way, this United States Agency for International Development, it was created. Kennedy created it in 1961, and it was meant for completely different things. It was supposed to spread democracy to other countries to fight against the Soviet Union. And then this bureaucratic machine grew so much that it started to consume America itself, just a little more, and America would have ceased to exist. But thank God the American people, together with us, Dennis, supported Trump and lent a helping hand. And now we are on the right side of history, on the side of pragmatists, and we will only rejoice and support this direction. And God willing, Ukraine will, receive as much information as possible. So everyone subscribe to the X platform, because this is exactly where you get this information. And we will move forward together.
Yes, definitely. And actually, I recently said in one of my videos, I imagined for a moment, what if Kamala or Biden had won? I think then it would have been a complete collapse. And the people who were against it, who said all sorts of nasty things, wrote things, immediately called others pro-Russian. They didn't even understand the scale of it. We understood what was happening. That's why we supported Trump so fiercely. But they didn't understand what was going on. Kamala and Biden, Ukraine would have faced endless war. Nothing would have survived. And success or reforms wouldn't even be discussed. And in general, all over the world, that's how much this swamp has sucked people in through these mass media outlets. It's just information and media. When I saw those United States Agency for International Development lists and where the money was going, it was unbelievable. And really, every redneck and non-redneck, every single United States taxpayer was financing this filth. That's how well they set everything up. All these democratic things around the world, it's a whole web.
There are even bloggers I see, and generally online, that many people in other countries say, please don't give us this money because sometimes it comes to us, but these funds are already being stolen in America. So at the moment, America is the most corrupt country in the world, which has also corrupted other countries. And Trump says the same thing. I want to know about these kickbacks, what kickbacks happened on American soil. He's interested in this because the main reason is this socialist disease, this cancer inside America, the CIA and all these agencies, these 450 times. I call them the ABCD companies, which even if you're not in the swamp, you don't even understand what they're talking about or how many of them exist. Right now, Elon Musk has basically taken all of this and at the moment has cut one of the arteries. And we see what an outcry there is, but in the future, I think we need to seal these arteries so that it's impossible to go back to this at all. They always say there's a nail and the pendulum swings left and right on it. I think the task of Elon and Trump is to pull out this rusty nail and move it far to the right, to hammer it in, and let conservatives and libertarians compete in the future. That was Trump's task. The Democrats, as a philosophy, should die because the word doesn't belong to them. By the way, this word was never used by the founding fathers. There were never any parties. That's why all of this needs to be reconsidered in a civilized way. I think that a team like Trump and Elon, they're absolutely handling things, honestly. We can't even keep up with them.
Yes, I agree. Every day there's news like this. But I like it. I like that they get straight to business and go right after the global feeders. Even before the elections, they already knew where this was heading. It wasn't proven before, but now it's documented and shown to the public. Many people, especially Americans, began specializing and posting content all day with multiple daily posts. Where all that money was going and what kind of mess was happening, honestly, at first I was just shocked by the scale. I was just shocked by how huge that money was.
So basically, what's the main point, daughter? There are three areas that Musk focused on: reducing expenses, that's money; reducing the number of people, that's people; and reducing regulations. The third one, as they say, is like Gulliver lying down, tied up by a million threads of regulations. It doesn't let America move forward, and that's how America's falling behind China, because over there, there's coordination, of course, there's no freedom and so on. But the bureaucracy that weighs on people's minds here, that's the real problem. And as Elon explains, if we reduce government spending many times over, and thank you, also reduce the number of officials, it will have an impact. Then inflation would be impossible, because inflation, he says, is mainly due to redistribution, due to excessive distribution of money through the government and through taxes. He also says the interest rate will definitely drop, giving businesses relief, money will flow quickly, and movement will follow immediately. That's why what Elon is doing now is kind of the main task, both internally, I believe, and externally. It's the same.
We'll get to that in a moment. I just want to mention that everything we're discussing, since we have a huge audience, mainly Ukraine or Ukrainians abroad, but basically we're focused on our own country. It's just that the United States is always the main trigger where everything starts from. Both the good and bad began here, as Democrats spread things due to abundant resources. See what the grant eaters in Ukraine began using as cover, and how those living off handouts took it to such an absurd level. They say grants total $7 billion a year, which is part of Ukraine's gross domestic product. Just imagine, Oleg, we're doomed, you know. I don't even want to say those words on air right now.
It's a disease.
We're not focused on creating added value for ourselves so that it becomes gross domestic product. They gave a grant for gross domestic product. As a result, Ukraine is bankrupt financially and morally, but it's not our fault. I'm just stating the facts. We have to be honest, though it's unpleasant to hear and say. We are morally bankrupt if we see gross domestic product as just United States Agency for International Development and the 10 billion armed migrant workers sent to Ukraine. We're also economically bankrupt because we haven't created conditions to generate value and produce this gross domestic product within the country. It begins here above all else, even before resources. And through these leftist media outlets, they were told exactly these ideas. Here are the migrant workers. Here is United States Agency for International Development. Here are the mineral resources. That is, everywhere there is no added value, everywhere we end up as passengers, and this filth breeds more filth. Impressionable minds latch onto this, they're told. Yelisevich is bad, the Russians are bad because of him. They'll serve it up under any pretext in any way. They just need to prove that this is the enemy, and that is good. They say there were good projects, they were funded. Next, why doesn't the government address these issues or fund essential needs for war veterans and medical care? Why must others handle this? Are we Africa? Are we some kind of downtrodden Nicaragua? Or who are we? We are a normal country in the center of Europe. It's just that the government is not fulfilling its functions. Come on, come on. They say, where is all the money? Let's cut government spending and we'll find money for everything and even more.
100%, 100%.
Especially during wartime.
I just want to kind of appeal to Ukrainians. Well, just imagine Elon Musk and Trump and then put Poroshenko or Zelensky next to them. It's just ridiculous. I mean, they're like two different worlds. Those guys are in space. These ones are in caves. So Ukrainians definitely shouldn't go back to the cave. And think, use your brain and don't pay attention to these politicians, because we've already explained that politicians are parasites and the state itself is the problem. So switch to people with common sense, connect with them. You'll see that even materially, you'll start to breathe differently because you'll have the right thoughts, because you'll have a 360-degree view around you, not some narrow communist focus on the state. Just imagine that there is no state at all. only people or leaders who really just want to do good business with other countries. In this case, America is the best ally in this direction and move forward. And if there is business, especially such a solid one, plus Elon Musk's factories, then Ukraine doesn't need a nuclear bomb. We don't need to arm ourselves because if we are allies of the states, then tomorrow that dome will protect us. We don't even need to bring anything in there.
Of course.
So I urge you to think more broadly about this and subscribe to the X platform.
Oleg, let me add something. That's why we're talking about this publicly. We cover everything there, off camera and without microphones. We're bringing this out to the public specifically to convey this idea to you, what is being offered to you. Oleg, that's a great comparison. Caves versus space. I call it Zhiguli and Moskvich in the Tesla Cybertruck era. These things just can't be compared. You're on YouTube with a color screen or phone, technology, yet they're suggesting you return to abacuses, which people once used to count endlessly. Just forget it like a bad dream. It's not even the day before yesterday. It's something that shouldn't even be discussed anymore. Just forget it forever. We've already given a million arguments in half an hour, so I want to move on. The news is that Democrats have delayed the decision on the new FBI head, Kasha Patel, by a week. You know why they're doing this, right? They're going to stall because there will be an audit and there will be arrests. Absolutely. They'll go to jail for this.
And it turns out that if during the previous term Biden came to the president's, then within the first 5 days, everyone was already in their places. But here you can feel the resistance. This once again shows us that they are so afraid of this quick movement because they will be left out, and this time for good, with no exceptions.
They're afraid of being exposed.
Of course, they will resist and so on, but their resistance will weaken a bit. Now, when Pamela starts working as a prosecutor, I think all of them will be charged, and that's it. This swamp includes both the Republican side and the Democratic side. They will all change their opinions. You saw the vote about the previous minister, this minister Pitt, the Minister of Armed Forces, that's in Ukrainian, Minister of Armed Forces. It's a 50-50 situation and only Vance saved it. Before that, even the Republicans opposed it. Then there was a call from Trump, a few explanations, and the prosecutors weren't even involved yet. And over there, you can really see the deep state's influence and all those schemes. But what can you do? They're not going anywhere. So even the speed we're moving at right now, just remember my words, in a month, it'll be even faster. Well, the way Elon Musk acts, it's a soul problem. A soul problem is the only way to change anything.
People, all the keys are correct. Because look, they're holding back Tulsi Gabbard. They've done everything to make sure Tulsi Gabbard isn't there. Pam, Kash Patel, they're holding back everything where the right people would get those very powers, full access to information. And even without that, look how much has already happened. And after that, it will definitely move even faster. I'm just scared to imagine what will happen. Most importantly, this will directly impact Ukraine as our people are closely connected. Zelensky and Yermak are closely linked with the leftists. I wouldn't call it a conspiracy anymore. Conspiracies are unproven, but now there are documents. It was a specifically created network for brainwashing people and for spreading a criminal ideology, I would say.
You understand, people with common sense can figure this out. But I think that Zelensky doesn't even realize that he's already 5 years behind, 2 weeks behind. He still doesn't understand.
He doesn't think about it, Oleg. He doesn't have to.
Yeah. He has these crowns of the European countries, Spain, the Netherlands, and even England. He has these crowns on his head, and he doesn't understand anything at all.
Crowns and applause. Later, I set up my phone and recorded a video message about going places, but it's all just another cave.
You've never heard him say, I did this, I decided that? No, he just shows the process. I'm walking here, I'm sitting here, I'm standing here, I'm lying down here. But that's just how it is now. He doesn't even realize that people don't perceive it.
He doesn't understand and doesn't want to understand. Yesterday, he said he'd do everything, even threatened them, lower pharmacy prices, people voted, let's have the government regulate it. You see, in his mind, communism is returning. He thinks, And unfortunately, so do many people. Most people in our country for now, that a strong, business-minded person should slam the table loudly with his fist and shout, and the prices will go down. But this is private business. That's it. The government doesn't produce. It doesn't have its own pharmacies. It doesn't produce. It's all the market. Business decides. And if the president thinks that you can just shout and the prices will go down, then that's manual control. That's communism, manual control of the state. Next, there will only be ration cards, food by ration cards, and after that, it's a nightmare collapse.
That's why I urge people to look. We've given you the definition of what a pragmatist is when it comes to politicians. Look for pragmatists. If you talk to pragmatists, you'll understand better where things are going and you'll get results. Because a politician has only one goal, to stay for the next term, to be a president forever. That always leads to dictatorship, always. But a pragmatist comes to bring order, to enrich the country, and to enrich himself. And you already become famous by default, so that will be enough for you to go even higher and tackle some bigger global issues. That's why it's a creative process, not just acting by the book if something explodes over there. So they don't really act according to a strategy, they act based on the situation. Something pops off here, something happens there, but they don't have any real strategy. There's no vision for the future at all, not for 5 years, not for 10 years. What you're suggesting is a libertarian idea, a pragmatic one. And in order to turn Ukraine around and connect it, I would say, with America, so that we breathe the same air, we need to breathe the same air as America. And we will succeed, definitely. People just need to be active so that America, Trump, and Elon can see us. For this, please use their platform, reach out, share, and post information. Dennis has a very large audience. So by doing this, you will bring both Ukraine and the whole world closer to some common sense.
Yes, this is our chance. And I would like to add for people, as for what you said, they want to stay in power. They use everything just for ratings because it's a corrupt feeding trough. Why shouldn't pragmatists like Ramaswamy, Musk, and Trump keep power? They're wealthy and can earn money outside politics. And yes, you can't do anything in America, that's it. And as soon as that happens, the leftists immediately jump in like Bernie Sanders did. Look, Musk invested 277 million in Trump's company, and now its capitalization is 1.5 billion, or however much it went up. Not 1.5, it went up by hundreds of billions. Look, what an amazing deal. They judge by themselves, they immediately translate it into that kind of context.
And right away, Kennedy asked him a question about pharma and says, you took $1,800,000 from pharma last year. He almost fell out of his chair.
Yes?
There you go, the leftists, they pretend they're for the people. And then Sanders says, give me a guarantee that every American will be healthy.
Yeah, you're a thief.
The biggest thief. You're sitting here, and here's the mark on your forehead, and you can't get away from it anymore. This is just the beginning. It's all going to unfold. I think, Dennis, that now the information will start spreading. 100 years, not 20 or 30, and all these socialists, including Roosevelt, who was very close with Stalin, and all this led to it. America would have been on Mars long ago if it weren't for the socialists who first created a problem in America and then poisoned the whole world with it. But this poison is kind of mutual, because on that side, if there's leftist America, then on the other side, dictators appear. Of course, I mean, that's obvious. It's kind of immediately equal. It will always be like that. And if someone like Trump is in power, a pragmatist, and he knows what to do and where he's going and at what speed, and if Elon Musk speeds him up even more, then that's a completely different question and completely different decisions.
And here the signal to people is that we are always afraid somehow, but this also comes from the Soviet era. Because in the Soviet Union, individuality was suppressed. They didn't like people who stood out. You had to blend in with the gray mass like a little rat, quietly somewhere. Quietly work your way into the Communist Party of the Soviet Union and eventually the Central Committee. That's how you build a career. Unfortunately, bright, outstanding people are still quickly rejected. But as this American practice shows, it's exactly the very sharp, unconventional, and straightforward people. You mentioned Kennedy. What radical reforms he proposes in healthcare in the United States, what radical things he proposes in general. So these little by little conformists, like, let's do a little bit here, compromise everywhere, and in the end, nothing gets done, and they call themselves centrists. It doesn't work like that. When such tough times come, like now, you have to cut deep and propose solutions that would have seemed crazy 10 years ago. That's really how it works. And the world is in such a time now, both in business and in politics, we've practically already been brought to disaster. If America used to be the product of democracy and freedoms, today we have what we have. And that's right, Bukele said at the United Nations back then, how are these the leaders of the free world? And I want to tell people this. Oleg can confirm that stores now lock up $6 chocolate bars to prevent theft. This is what leftists have caused in wealthy American cities, not just remote areas.
It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. And that's why, well, thank God, America is already turning in the right direction. But here, Ukraine needs to, and I support you on this, that the institution of the presidency at the moment, provided that a pragmatist becomes president, is necessary. Like Trump, he is currently addressing many issues through executive orders. Imagine if he sent all these issues to the Senate or to Parliament. That's it. That's a stop.
They will go for a compromise now, so that everyone is satisfied. Everyone is satisfied.
Naturally, each wants their own way. There, he thinks about how to line his own pockets, how to drag out the process, just like the socialists do. Not to solve the problem, but to drag it out. That's why a pragmatic president is rising in Ukraine. I think in the first 2 years, it's possible to create a truly free country in association with America and build a business that will provide a guarantee of security. Because it's really cool to even hear the words Ukraine and business from Trump, since he could have just not mentioned it at all, but he actually said it. He comes in through the front door and says, we're going to do business. This gives you Ukrainians, us, hope. It gives us an opportunity. It's like air. Just make sure you take advantage of it. So it has to be mutual, because Trump won't talk to Poroshenko or Tymoshenko or those people in Kyiv. So there are no other options. It has to be a new person, but definitely a pragmatist. If it even seems that he's even 1% a socialist, that's already a danger. Sooner or later, it'll come out and he'll stall the process again, and America will be far away again, and Ukraine will be nowhere, and once again at risk of an attack from Russia. Well, that's my opinion.
Moreover, since you brought up the topic of a parliamentary republic in Ukraine, which some politicians and public figures are now promoting, it's still an oligarchy. Now, 5 oligarchs will place their people in parties, and the oligarchs themselves, not the parties, will make the deals. Those below simply raise their hands and vote as instructed. There's no true political process. Again, it's an immediate compromise. They make a deal right away, so everyone is satisfied in that sense. The money and cash flows are divided, and that's it. So there will never be any drastic reforms or bold ideas. Cutting deep, parliamentary republics will never cut half of the state like Milei did. It's simply impossible, especially in a country like Ukraine. Just impossible.
For example, Javier Milei, president of Argentina, managed to set things in order only this way. Nayib Bukele and Trump are both presidents. These are your examples. Nothing needs to be invented. If you want to stay in caves, then choose these parliaments and so on and so on. And parties, these parties, all of this just parasites. It takes your time. They simply steal your time.
Oleg, and now, since we're talking about examples, it's important for people to understand why Europe fell into this crisis. Almost all countries have parliamentary republics. Look at what's happening in Germany. The country is in trouble, and look how far it's gone. Spain, what is this Sanchez doing? A 100% tax on non-residents buying real estate. A crazy man. Look at what's happening in Britain. It's already on the edge. The country's on the edge. There you go. It seems like the prime ministers keep changing. It seems like everything should be better. But nothing. It only gets worse. They've already embraced blatant leftism.
You didn't mention any pragmatists.
They're not presidents and lack that authority. Everything goes through parliament, where it always gets buried. Definitely. In Israel, there's an ongoing political crisis with frequent elections and Netanyahu's repeated returns. This endless turmoil seems to be part of their democracy. But I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But if we're talking about a sharp breakthrough, and Israel has a lot of economic problems, those who live there know, no one can make it happen. Because as soon as there's arguing, the parliament compromises just to keep power and nothing ever changes. People suffer, countries stagnate, and war comes both in Israel and here. That's why I've thought about this for a long time. I agree the presidential administration building symbolizes the Soviet era and the Communist Party. It could be privatized, demolished, and replaced with something new as a symbol. And Zelensky, by the way, promised to do that. He promised to move out of there.
Look, imagine this. You're the president. You can solve all the issues right from this office. Actually, no, this building is a cave. If you think about it, these buildings need to be removed, really. It's a bureaucratic nest that only breeds corruption, so it needs to be gotten rid of. There's a building. Here's the X platform. This is a building for communication. And if, let's say, people know that you communicate directly like this in streams and so on, then there's trust. But people who start talking in narratives after 2 or 3 days or promote themselves with all sorts of photos with the military, that's not normal. That's already a sick society. Even the person who does that is already sick. Taking a picture with a soldier and posting it doesn't make you one. If you want to be a soldier, go and fight. But you don't need all this self-promotion and to wear those strawberries on your shoulder like it was before. Now you see the result of all that public relations. That's why we need to stick to common sense. That's what I'm asking people to do. Please spread the information so that not only Ukraine gets it, but also Trump and Elon get it too. That's important. You should click and send it to Trump and Elon, but I'll translate it into English and I'll also post it to Elon and Trump. Thank you.
Oleg has an X and a YouTube channel where you do translations. I'll put the links in the description. Subscribe for useful info to broaden your horizons. And the original source. The thing is, this idea is being promoted. For example, Dubinsky is doing it under a certain pretense. This way we ensure protection from dictatorship. But I think just protecting ourselves from dictatorship is too small a goal. If we only focus on avoiding dictatorship, I don't see any point in doing more. That's too small-minded. If everyone else is on Mars while we're only focused on preventing dictatorship, we don't deserve anything good.
Definitely, it's very important to choose a leader right now. Well, you're standing on the threshold of what America faced last year. November 5th, I think we even joked with you that maybe the next elections would be on November 5th, just like in America. Remember?
Only in Ukraine, yes.
Yes, that's how it happened in Ukraine around fall.
There will be elections in the fall. Yes, yes.
Yes, and it turns out that you have to get your bearings and make the right choice in favor of common sense. That's why, and believe me, no parliaments or anything like that. Oligarchs will just put their own people in there. It's the same as in America. In America, there seem to be two parties, but it's the same oligarchy. It's the same oligarchy here. If Trump hadn't risen above as a pragmatist, above the politicians, they would have crushed him just like the first time. He understood this situation and took even more for himself. The greatest genius on this earth, Elon Musk, and then everything took off. And look at the results every day, every hour, every second. You and I have talked for an hour. I think we need to get into this already because we're already losing something.
Yeah.
That's the kind of speed we're talking about.
And the last topic, here it is. Musk spoke about implementing blockchain in United States government administration so that people can see things in real time without interference. In other words, no one will be able to interfere manually. Here's the inflow of taxpayers' money with all the chains showing where it went, so everyone can see the process transparently.
Wow.
Yes, that's technical, but it's not a problem for them. I'm convinced they'll implement it. What's the benefit for Ukraine? I want to tell people once again, because I often get messages saying, talk about Ukraine. So this is about Ukraine, and the conversation is about when the United States will do it. When I say this on YouTube, you don't realize that something is wrong there. Sometimes you're bad, sometimes you're good. When Musk implements this in the United States, you won't be able to avoid it anymore. It's like Milei, who cut government spending, and Bukele, who defeated crime. When someone is already implementing this in their countries, you won't be able to avoid it anymore. And then Lyashko, for example, won't come out and say that it's wrong, nor will Poroshenko. If blockchain is implemented in the United States, it will be a global victory over government corruption worldwide. Because that's it. There's no turning back, no more excuses. Here it is, implemented. I want this to happen faster and for Ukraine to be the first in this. So, Oleg, what hurts about this? We're always copying someone else like monkeys. Starting from the pandemic, blindly repeating what someone else is doing. But we need to use our heads here and try to get one step ahead. And we're a young country that can move quickly, make decisions fast, and we could have been the first. And this blockchain could already have been implemented in Ukraine. It could already have been implemented in Ukraine.
Of course, well, for that you need a president with a backbone, you understand. But if he's spineless, he can't, I'm not sure he can even solve his own problems. It's an entire country, and under the pressure of Soros, and I'm sure other organizations are also putting pressure from all sides, and he can't get his bearings, he's running back and forth. Trump already showed the direction, so why keep running around? Just come, agree to everything, and you'll be a participant. But when you start setting some conditions, like you have to do something with Europe. Yeah, for Trump, honestly, this NATO thing is already a relative issue, especially since, as I said, new technology will create a dome. He doesn't need this NATO at all, that's why. And plus, to have a base near Israel in the Gaza area, and God willing, Ukraine will become another such point. And that's it. Geopolitically, there are already points in Latin America, in North America, and in Africa. I think South Africa as well. Now, Elon, since it's his homeland, will take on this matter. And the government there will definitely change because there are a lot of white people. People came there, they work very hard. It's difficult to earn a living, and they're simply being mistreated and killed. And he's known this since childhood. So basically, there will be another base down in Africa. So that's where it's being placed. And this, let's say, Trump's map, yes, it's moving. It's not something static.
Yes.
As soon as he sees some kind of green light, or on that side, a sense of freedom, common sense, pragmatism.
As soon as something like that starts to grow, he supports it.
Of course, he supports it. Elon supports it. For example, Elon supported Fidesz in the European Parliament elections, and look at how he acts. That's pragmatic in Elon's support. I think he'll quickly figure out this European Union little by little. It's the same cesspool, the same deep state, maybe even worse than in America.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
That's why the process is ongoing. Can you imagine how much Trump does, how much Elon does? Let's make some kind of move on our side too.
Yes, and we kind of glossed over it there. We need to add that now. Trump withdrew from the World Health Organization and the United Nations Human Rights Council. Israel also left the Human Rights Council, and Argentina exited the World Health Organization. Really? And again, why is that? Because Trump came to power, because a direction has already been set that no one will go against. But didn't the pandemic show that the World Health Organization is actually a corrupt feeding trough? Why do I want to tell people, why couldn't Ukraine leave? Why didn't it? They're all part of this global web feeding off it. Huge amounts of money are involved. And those you elect, those you support, are part of it. They have no intention of stepping away from this. Their goal is to find their own stream, to feed off it and keep fooling you. But to actually do something historic and good both for themselves and for the country, that's not their aim. No one even asked the question of how to live in this country. The goal is to squeeze the country like a lemon, bring even more misery here, and then leave safely themselves, that's all. If not, just sit here and feed off it, telling stories like those on the United States Agency for International Development. No reports on violations by the Territorial Recruitment Center, closed borders, beatings, or human rights issues. As if everything is fine in Ukraine, just give us money and we'll tell you that there's democracy here like nowhere else. That's how simple it all works. We also need to leave these organizations as soon as possible.
100%, because these are feeding troughs for the globalists, which they created themselves, and mostly they milk America. Then they distribute them. Just imagine how the money sticks here with the bureaucrats. Then they end up in this World Health Organization, and as the Africans, the bloggers say, they get nothing. In the end, nothing reaches them at all. That's why now this will stop. Elon will cut all their arteries, and the whole world will breathe a sigh of relief. And the taxpayer, how will he understand? Well, it's frustrating to pay taxes to whom? Well, I didn't agree to pay either Biden or Kamala Harris. But if the country organizes everything, and if I'm sure that Elon will still achieve it, that they will lower taxes even more, or maybe get rid of income tax. If, because he has a goal, so that every American feels it within these 2 years. He says that an ordinary person should feel it. No one has ever set such a goal before, but he says that every American should feel it. This is what a pragmatist says. someone who is focused on the goal and solves the issue every second and every second on air. He doesn't even need to call Trump or ask Elon anything. He just goes into the X platform and sees the main issues he's dealing with. That's it. This is communication. Let's join this communication and be in this space, not in the space of those already paid bloggers. Thankfully, there will be fewer of them, but as long as rotten Europe supports them.
They'll intercept some and care for them. Unfortunately, this will continue for now, but it's already less. That's encouraging, a small victory. And about the organizations, since we're talking about it, NATO, the same thing. Trump could very well pull out of NATO. That's already obvious. And peace talks on Ukraine and peace in Ukraine, this could be the start of a new global security system. Why Trump? Not because he's the villain they claim or wants to leave NATO to punish someone. Money is being spent inefficiently, which is the main topic of this broadcast, pragmatism. America is feeding NATO, whose member countries raised Putin with gas and other money for energy resources, indulged him, and supported this with propaganda.
And they built socialism.
They built socialism and created a monster with 6,000 nuclear warheads, threatening the world like a monkey with a grenade. This is the result. That's why I'm more confident he'll leave NATO, especially if things work out with Canada and something new happens like they want. The League of Free Nations will form new political, economic, and military alliances with fewer members, a different ideology, and a new system of interaction.
Of course.
And that will be fair. That will be fair.
Absolutely. That's why we're asking for support, because we have the right vision, I believe, because we proved it in America when everyone there was rooting for the Democrats and so on, saying all kinds of nonsense. Denis Yelisevich was the only one in a Trump t-shirt. No one else dared. They were too afraid. So you were really taking a risk.
That's how I got in trouble for it.
If it were Kamala now, I think things would be much worse here. That's why we fought for this victory. And now we'll extend this to Ukraine.
Yes, thank you, Oleg.
Thank you.
I hope people understand what we're talking about. For 20 years, we've heard about NATO and the European Union, which are now seen as ineffective and near collapse. So today they're discussing the day before yesterday, while we're focused on tomorrow and the day after. It's important for people to focus on what's next, rather than dreaming about the European Union or NATO, which are nearing collapse.
I agree. Thank you all.
Thank you.